What do we have here? What? This is not a road bike. Well, it does go on the road and it is a bike. It's a 3-speed Electra Hawaiian cruiser. We're gonna go over some details on this fabulous cruiser and where it came from after this. Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop. Taking scary how to use bikes one bike at a time.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Hey, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the guy on this whole bike series. Yes, we're gonna change gears, not just specifically just do road bikes. We're also gonna check a couple cruisers out as well. I always have a passion for cruisers. We had a shop cruiser back in Parker Bikes and we used to go to the store and it was just fun. So fast forward to today, 20, 30 years later, they still make these cruisers and they've added little kind of upgrades to them over the years, more and more like flair and style versus technical advancements. Although there is some that are pretty schwank when they're talking about aluminum frames, internal hubs with belt drives, which can drive the price up on those quite a bit. But you can find these gems pretty inexpensively and sometimes in very good shape. Now this one has a little bit of scuffs and scrapes on it, which I'm going to do some actual polishing on to kind of bring out that style and the details of the actual green and the flowers and so forth. These had actually matching or kind of, I don't want to say matching, well the rims match, but they actually had a kind of a style piece. So, you know, with the pink, with the white wall traditional tires. And anybody who's ridden a cruiser, yeah, they're big and clunky and so forth, but when they're kind of tuned up, which doesn't take a lot, which is great, they're pretty self-maintained on some of them with the internal hubs, which make them an excellent just cruising around, just like cruising. Going to the store, hanging out with friends, going to the park, riding with your kids, that kind of thing. I love mine. I have a couple of them. So I figured, hey, what the heck? I picked up a couple. We're going to do some cleaning up and it'd be a nice addition to the plethora of things that I do. And also, if you're into just looking for just a ride to get into cycling and just for something recreational with minimal gears and that kind of thing, this is probably the bike for you. Anywho, we're going to dive into this. A lot of these bikes, I'm going to kind of go over some details while taking this apart as we're getting ready to refurbish it. So the newer ones have this Shimano Nexus hub, which has an internal shifting, which is like the old Sturny Archer hubs out there, which are, you know, very popular, been around forever. So when you take these shifters off, you gotta make sure you don't lose track of this pin. This pin is what guides it back and forth to change that gear mechanism in the back. So we'll get that kind of cleaned up. I'm not gonna overhaul these hubs. Usually you don't really need to because they've been around for a while and they're all internal and the grease is good, but you can tear them apart and clean them, grease them back up and put them back together. A lot of these guys are a 15 millimeter bolts. So you got to get that shifter mechanism off first before releasing this. And since this does have what they call a kickback brake or a coaster brake is another one, you want to release this brake arm off too. So I like to loosen up the bolts first on both sides. That way the wheel is a little bit loose. Then you go ahead and release the other one there. And I think those are a 10 millimeter. And we'll have to check out which one is 8 or 9 on the back, sometimes 10. So there's a little band on the opposite side here where that's where you need to release this to drop that wheel out. And I need to figure out which must be a 10 on the inside. Boop, boop. Get these guys back up there. This is where, in a rare form, actually use box wrenches. Back in the day, they used to use box wrenches almost on every bike. in the 90s kind of thing, was that's what a lot of the parts were for most of those mountain bikes and hybrids and what have you. So we're just gonna dive into this guy, see what we can come up with. And to refurbish my road bikes as well as even this guy or any bikes, I like to take the wheels off and most of the componentry if possible. We'll check the crank on the bottom bracket on this guy, see if it has any issues. This bolt is, bam, taking its time. So these are kind of tricky because they are a little different, and once that bolt is released, then the wheel comes right out and you just roll the chain off. So this is what we're looking with, and that's the coaster brake arm there. That's what helps you pedal backwards and stops. I'm also taking the wheel off so I can clean it and shoe the wheel, make sure it's all in good working order. Put my parts on my rack so I know where they disappeared to. Apparently this bike was installed pretty well because the band clamp on this other side here, it is coated, but also they put a little rubber electrical tape to protect the frame because those band clamps will sometimes scratch up the frame as well. So we're going to dive into the front here. So this guy came with fenders, and that was stock, and that's what's kind of cool about these guys. They still make new ones of these. Really not much different. I mean, they're pretty much closely the same. New ones though, you're looking at $300 to $500. You can still buy these used ones with the 3-speed. And that's the thing that you want to get if you want to have any extra little gears. I mean, they really do help out for sure for going up and down those hills. I mean, they're not climbing gears by any means, but at least give you a little bit extra oomph to get up those. Oh, this one's a little bit lock nuts loose, so I'm going to double check that when I readjust it. So essentially what this is going to cost you, sometimes bike shops will have a cruiser or a single speed tune-up price, which is substantially cheaper than your regular tune-ups, which is suggested if you just bought it used. It might be a good idea to have that done to just make sure it's double checked in safety and all these, the hubs are adjusted correctly, the wheels are true, the bottom bracket is nice and smooth and not tight, that kind of thing. And this particular chain I do not believe has a quick link, which back in the day a lot of the single speed BMX chains used to. Those were a lot of fun, but this one is just a standard chain. This particular type of chain though is what they call, you can pin, and basically you push the pin not all the way through but partially to the outside plate, and then you just push that pin back through the other direction to put it back together. So this is where it gets down tech, if you want to call it that, which you can put a quick link on there if you wanted to, a single speed quick link. These are a little bit wider chain than your standard chains on your 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 speed, so they're going to be a little bit wider. I'm going to take this off and actually give it a good cleaning and just wipe down the chain ring itself. I don't feel like I need to take the whole crank off, but you can take this fender off to get to the internal frame if you need to. Also, these little chain dinger protections is one of those things where they get muddled up or dinged up, so this one's actually in really good shape. I did notice on a couple pieces of this fender they have some dings on them, and I'm going to try to get some of these little scrapes and so forth taken care of. And interesting enough, it has a little bit of rust on the chrome. That's all you need is a little bit of Scotch-Brite and a little bit of a polisher. That cleans that stuff right up. So it'll not even be noticed there. I've cleaned a lot of like rusted steel-coated or chrome-coated bars before with a little disc sander kind of thing with the, not disc sander, but the Scotch-Brite pad, and that really cleans up all those kinds of things. So, all right, well, we're at the case where I'm gonna clean it up, and let's get to the point of inspection and making sure I'm not got myself into a huge can of worms, which I really don't think so on this guy. It was in pretty good shape, bought it from the original owner, seemed pretty knowledgeable of the bike. Got it, I believe, for his wife, and it just never got ridden really per se. These do sometimes, if not a lot of times, we'll inherit a lot of garage wear. In other words, since they are kind of big, they get kind of thrown around and stuff just runs into them kind of deal. So I will go over this with a polishing technique. I'll probably do the 3 layers of using the scratch and swirl, the compound that I have here, as well as the polish to bring this really out, to get all those out. Scratches and little dings, and you can kind of see. But once this is all done, it's going to be one beautiful little ride, and it'll make somebody an awesome little cruiser bike. Figured I'd pick up a couple of these just for fun. It's been a while since I worked on them, and give me something a little bit different in my arsenal of bikes that I do sell. And pretty much we are in the clear on this guy. Yeah, I don't see anything which would warrant any concern. Just that it's just a little dirty, and some of the scuffs need to be cleaned up. And it's something kind of cool to have something that's this, in a sense, simple in a sense versus all the new tech stuff out there today. I mean, I'm pretty enthusiast cyclist. In other words, I probably work on, obviously I work on more bikes than I actually ride, but the thing is you know, I kind of like to different flavors for different things. And they do make kind of a newer version of this style of type of riding where it's more relaxed sitting. Electra company came out with that. It's not electric, don't get that me wrong. It's not electric assist, it's just Electra is the name of the company. And when they came out, they were just really a cruiser line, really cool, fun things, just, you know, just fun for cycling. And we sold a ton of them at Lee's Cyclery because we had a store right across from campus. These are great college bikes. I mean, just get you around, easy to lock up, everything bolts down so you don't have to worry about stuff being, you know, quickly stolen. They're not too much of an expensive lift. You can put baskets and stuff on it for carrying stuffing around. So they're very versatile, functional bike. And in Europe and in Asia, these bikes are used quite a bit for just everyday recreational use. This is like before the cargo bikes even became in existence. And they've been around for centuries or decades, not centuries, decades. But anyway, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, if you have the room and you have something you just want to have fun riding on the weekends or what have you, these are a kick. But when I was getting to the newer versions, we have like the specialized rolls, which is kind of like the 27B tires, a little bit wider balloon feeling, similar to this but a little bit bigger, upright position. And those are a lot of fun because they actually they're aluminum with disc brakes, so they're lighter weight, and you have a little bit more wider range of gears, and those are just awesome too for just that same kind of riding. So you do have the newer versions of that out there, but those rolls are, you know, they're still $700, $800, $900 new. You can maybe find one of those a little bit cheaper in your neck of the woods, but the cruisers are going to be a little more available. And I found, like, you know, I've seen a couple of these around $100 to $200. Put maybe $100 into it. They may need new tires or some new grips or a new saddle, but, you know, end of the day, there's not too much that needs to be replaced. What you're really looking for, like all bikes I mentioned before, is you want to inspect the frame and fork. That's the heavier lift. If that's damaged or compromised to the point of not being safe, you just have a box of parts. So therefore, if that's good, the other parts are usually pretty inexpensive. So to get into riding and recreational riding, these are just, you know, pretty awesome little guys to get into without putting too much into it. So anyway, without further ado, I'm gonna take a little test section here while we have a little bit of time, and let's clean up this fender here, and let's show what the magic of the polish can do for you. All right, what we got is some scuffs here. So what I'm going to use is this orange pad, which is it's a wool blend on that. And I use a little bit of the dab of the scratch and swirl. Put a little bit on there, and let's see if we can get some of the stuff out. Looks like I got a couple stubborn little sections there. So I usually take a little bit of a stronger cleaner. Let's see if I can get some of those scuffs out. Then the scratch and swirl can clean up that area where those were at. You want to be careful with those stronger cleaners because some decaling will basically come right off depending on the stickers that they use of the manufacturer. So let me double check that. I'm going to do it again once over. A little more scratch and swirl on there. All right, that's actually looking pretty good. Cleaned up that really well. So now we're gonna move on to the compound. And this is kind of interesting. This is kind of where the Adams polish really will shine because it's really was created to refurbish cruisers back in the day, according to the story, and now they do a whole car line of stuff. But since this is a cruiser with a lot more surface area than my typical frame and fork that I work on, this is actually going to be one of those situations where I'll put more time into the frame detailing than just cleaning the rest of the parts because there's, like I said before, it's more minimal than your up-to-date bike. So putting this effort into the frame and the fenders and the fork and stuff and the rims, this is going to make this bike shine about as good as it gets, pretty close to new anyway. So let's do the compound, see what that does to this frame paint. Alrighty, so the three of the four steps is done, and you can kind of see getting that showroom shine. You know, there's one little scratch here that I don't think I'm going to be able to get out. This is a little bit deeper, into the lighter undercoat paint, so I don't want to cut too much off of that. Just kind of leave that devil alone. And wow, that is really starting to shine. Let's throw some polish on this and see what happens. This might be magical. Exactly what this stuff is made for. I love geeking out on stuff like this. It just kind of really brings it, regenerates my excitement for bikes. It's a little more difficult because, you know, fender kind of swivels around as I'm trying to apply pressure. But look at that shine. Showroom quality right there. Brings out that brilliant green, which has a very fine glitter to it. This thing's gonna pop in the sunlight. Man, look at that. That's just amazing. Anywho, I'll proceed to work on the rest of the frame here and get it to shine and polish up the wheels. Double check those hubs, make sure they're adjusted correctly. The bottom bracket and the headset as well. It's a little more, like I mentioned, it's more simple in the sense that they're not really technical bits to them, so a little bit easier to adjust and work on. But that doesn't mean they don't wear out, break, and that thing either. But in this sense, though, it looked like it was in pretty condition and not used very much. So the actual wear points, where the hubs and cranks and that and chain, probably not going to be that much work at all. Mainly just getting the rest of the fenders clean and the frame and the fork. So, and also double check the rims and all that. But bring this bike back to its full glory of cruising and ready to hit the next path of fun and excitement and cycling in itself. Anywho, check out these pictures at the final product. You'll be amazed.